Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our preseason power rankings series. Today, we're entering the top three. We're going with the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that was really good last year at one point, and then they just weren't. There were points last year where they legitimately looked like probably like the worst team in football, if I'm being honest, right? And I don't think that's exaggeration. So how is this team top three? If they ended the season that poorly, how are they in the top three? Well, we're going to see the power of coordinators this year. All right? Last year, that was not a forte of theirs. They were extremely bad with their coordinators last year. I also think some stuff was going on in the locker room that isn't going to repeat again this year. I think last year was a learning experience. Now Sirianni knows more about building a staff. Now Sirianni knows much more about keeping this team together and focused, right? I think they're going to really learn their lessons from last year, and I think, you look at some of the additions they made at some of the spots they were weak in last year, now those might be some of their biggest strengths, depending on how some of these guys might perform this year. So, Dean, how do you feel about the Philadelphia Eagles, a team we have ranked third on our list after being first-round exits last year?
I mean, the roster speaks for itself. This is one of the best rosters in football. There's high-end talent. There's depth. They added two coordinators, whom one of which I like the fit. The other one I also like the fit. But as a Dolphins fan, I do see the stubbornness within him. But either way, two better coordinators than they were last year. Now, with Nick Sirianni, I don't know how you feel about Nick Sirianni. I'm not a huge Nick Sirianni guy. I think he is the beneficiary of some very good coordinators and a very good roster.
I almost said sculpture-wise. From a scheme perspective, I tried to mix scheme and culture. From a scheme perspective, I agree with you, right? He isn't like the best X's and O's guy in the world. Now, I do think he's fine with the X's and O's. But I will say this. Sirianni is not a head coach because of what he does from a scheme perspective. Right, we're going to get into this head coaching culture, and, I mean, that is what Sirianni brings here. He brings in a, F around and find out type of mentality to this football team. They embody the Philadelphia culture, for better and for worse. They embody the Philadelphia culture, all right? You punch one of them, they're punching you back, and they're punching 10 times harder, right? That's how this Philadelphia team plays. They play dirty. They do whatever it takes to win, and you got to respect it. That is Sirianni's mentality. He's not one for this entire professionalism BS, okay? That's not what he is. He's a Philadelphia guy, right?
Philadelphia guy.
He is all about just winning and doing whatever it takes and being a jerk while doing it, because, again, Philadelphia. He's fine with that being the identity around this team, and he embraces it. And I love it, and he keeps this team really channeled in on this for the most part.
Sure.
Last year there was a little bit of a bump, but...
So, yeah, I don't like using... Because, you're right, culture, what people bring... people call Dan Campbell a cheerleader. What Dan Campbell brings as a culture guy is immeasurable. And you can say the same thing with Sirianni. I don't know, man. I kind of label Nick Sirianni as kind of a cheerleader, man. Because we saw how it is last year when he doesn't have the coordinators to back him up.
Yeah.
Especially as an offensive coach. Sirianni came in as an offensive head coach.
Yes.
That offense was awful, at least schematically.
Yeah.
It was bad. So, yeah, what he brings is from the culture. It is the Philly way. It is the, we're gonna win and we're gonna be a dick while doing it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Here's my thing, right? You're not wrong, right? Without his coordinators, he looks bad. But what are we worried about for this year, right? Is Vic Fangio gonna get injured on the sideline? No. Vic Fangio.
We'll get into my Vic Fangio rant later, but
but
he's better
the
than
point
the
is,
last guy.
he's
Absolutely.
yes, he's better than Matt Patricia, right?
He's not Matt Patricia.
Right? He's better than Matt Patricia. Kellen Moore is an established offensive coordinator, right?
Yes.
They are going to be great. They are not concerned about coordinators. Maybe, I think even you, as someone that is a little bit more down on Fangio, I think even you are aware he is a capable defensive coordinator in this league. They did not have that last year, and they didn't have that offensively, right? Did Sirianni really help make up for that? No, but he won't need to this year, so I don't really care, in all honesty, right? They want to win, and they don't care if they're seen as jerks, and that is what Sirianni brings to this football team.
Right. Absolutely. So let's now we've talked about the culture. Let's get into this offense. Talk about that new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. How do you feel about Kellen Moore?
So, Kellen Moore, I find him to be really strange to get a read on because he runs everything. He's one of the few, hybrid guys in the NFL. And I mean, true hybrid of everything, right?
Yes.
He runs a true multiple offense. And he'll change it up depending on the skill set of his players, which is what good coordinators do. And I have a feeling that might be...
Mr. Vic Fangio.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I have a feeling that might be what you're going to knock Fangio for later on. But he's a very, very multiple guy, right? Every run scheme, whether it's gap, zone, it could be inside zone. Then they're going to run duo the next play. They run everything. Now, this is mainly a zone blocking offensive line, so I'm expecting more zone. And really, that's something I want to hit on here. They can run everything. This offense can be a lot of different things. But what do I expect it to be looking at the skill set of these players? That's something I really want to try and hit on throughout this episode because I think it's really interesting. Because again, this can be a lot of different things. It could be a run-heavy under-center team. It could be a run-heavy pistol team. It could be a play-action-heavy pistol team that takes a lot of vertical shots. We have no idea. It could be an RPO-heavy team because that's Sirianni and what he likes to do. We have no idea what this is going to be because they can run everything.
Yes.
Kellen Moore, he doesn't have a forte. What he does do a lot, though, that he's definitely going to bring over here, motion.
Lots of motion.
Lots of
which
motion.
Which they had none of last year.
Yes.
They had
zero.
No motion last year.
I don't think Brian Johnson knew that motion was legal.
Yes. And to be fair, Sirianni might not have either because he didn't tell him to
exactly. He didn't. It gets to a point where the head coach kind of has to say something like, hey, man,
move a player around for
me. The year is 2024, and you are running the most stagnant offense we've seen in half a decade.
Legit Madden playbook is what they ran. Without
exactly.
the motion plays. It was 4 verts, 4 slants, maybe smash.
And inside zone. And that was the only run play. Shotgun every play except for when it's 4th and 1. That's a true stat. It is not exaggeration.
No,
they were in the shotgun every single play that they didn't run the brotherly shove. Or some fake variation of it.
Yep.
Every single play.
And that's why a guy like Todd Bowles was able to take advantage of them in the playoffs last year because it was so uncreative and they didn't know when you're in the shotgun. So how about this? When you're under center, it really helps your quarterback because you can run play action out of that. You can drop back. That helps your quarterback because the defense, they still kind of have to guess what's going on there. When they're in the center as they are and they're running inside, when they're in shotgun, I should say, as much as they are, and they're running inside zone as much as they are, it's not too hard to decipher what's happening, and they can play off that very easily.
Even if you want to make play action happen, right? I mean, I'm not going to stand up and show you, but if I'm over here, right, trying to run play action, faking a handoff, what do you think is going to draw the linebackers in more? A play where I'm turning my back towards the defense and I'm taking several seconds to execute the ball fake, or a play where it's literally half a second of a ball fake?
The half a second where the running back half the time isn't even really faking for the ball.
There were times where DeAndre Swift would go the other way on a route and he would still fake it. It was really funny. The offense was not coached up properly. It was very visible. I also don't think you mentioned the Todd Bowles game. I don't think they planned in hot reads at all.
No, not at all. They didn't. Jalen Hurts wasn't great last year, but they did not help Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, no, they didn't. His first instinct when he saw blitz was throw a go ball.
Because there was no hot route for him.
There wasn't. Yeah, and I also don't know if they coached him up that way, but that's really bad. Kellen Moore is not going to be doing that. All right? Kellen Moore is a good offensive coordinator. He isn't someone that's going to reinvent the wheel, but he can run everything.
I remember when he first started, and like everyone's like, "Oh, hot head coach candidate." He's one of the best coordinators in football. We know he's not that now, but he's good. He's a good coordinator, and
Exactly.
it's going to help this offense that has so much talent.
And the fact that he has everything in his arsenal will allow this offense to really get molded towards the player's skill set in the best way possible, right? They only ran inside zone last year. Only. That was their only run play. That and QB sneak. That was it. That's all they had. I'm expecting at least a little bit of variance here. What do I expect this offense to be? I want to kind of tackle that as we go position by position, but I guess I'll give a general view right now. I think it is going to be a zone-heavy team, both outside and inside. I think they're kind of going to base out of like a pistol look. They're going to run, QB reads, because of course they will. I mean, you have Jalen Hurts. Why would you not? I think it still will be a vertical offense. I think they're going to incorporate RPOs with that.
I think it's going to look a lot like what you see in Miami. Maybe not as much over the middle stuff, but they're in pistol a lot. They're running a lot of zone. They're running a lot of motion. Like, that's what I think is going to look like, and I think that's very good for this offense.
Yes.
This offense has the players to make that work, and that's why they're ranked so high.
Exactly. But now we look at the players, right? And so far, we've kind of been negative about everything from last year, right? Now we get to go over the only things from last year that actually are, like, good. There's a reason this team is the third team here. Okay, there is.
If this team roster-wise last year should have been way better.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this roster was still one of the best in football last year. And that's just how bad the coaching was. That's just how bad the coaching was last year. Now with good coaching, this should still be one of the best teams in football. And it starts with their quarterback and Jalen Hurts. And, do you think Jalen Hurts is one of the elite of the elite? I personally don't think so. But he's a damn good quarterback. And it's not only what he brings as a quarterback, what he brings to this locker room and as a leader is maybe as much as anybody in the NFL, maybe the most. Well, he is the leader of this team. I remember when there were still debates about should they pay Jalen Hurts that big contract. And it's like, I think these players would literally form an angry mob and go to Nick Sirianni's house if they didn't pay Hurts. Like, this is their leader, right? And it's not only what he does in the locker room. He's a good quarterback. He's got a really nice deep ball. We all know what he does with his legs, what he does with the tush push. Dude squats 700 pounds. Really nice, quick thrower, RPO guy. And he has his games where he does look like one of the very best in the league. And sometimes he has his game where he doesn't. But he's a quarterback that you want to rally behind, that this team wants to rally behind.
He's not someone that is going to read some of these more, I don't want to say advanced concepts, because what he reads, like, it is advanced, but he is a shot taker, right?
Yes.
His passing concepts, his favorite passing concepts are all generally vertical passing concepts. That's what he likes to do. He likes to aim for the big play. And when that big play isn't there, right, and he will progress through his reads, but when he makes his reads and he sees stuff isn't going according to plan, that's when he goes off and runs. And he is very willing to just tell his receiver, go up and get it. And
yes. Because they have a guy who can go up and get it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, honestly.
They have two guys that can go up and get it.
They have two. And it's a really fun quarterback to watch. Again, he isn't Joe Burrow. He's not Mahomes. But if you ask me, like, who's keeping that gate, I would say he's like the gatekeeper for that elite quarterback tier.
I would say so, too. I say he's like anywhere from at any point anywhere from the 8th to like the 12th best quarterback in the league. I think that's about where he stands.
I feel very sternly with him and like Rodgers as like that 8-9, right? Yeah. I feel like and then I guess Gino also. Like, those are the three guys I would throw in like that tier, just barely outside elite. Like, those are the guys I like in that spot. But then we look at the depth, right? They have Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett is, I honestly don't know how much I trust him as a backup at this point.
He does not look. He has not completed a pass in the preseason over 10 yards. That is your real stat.
Did he complete any over 10 yards in his career? I'm still not convinced he has.
Now, Tanner McKee has looked good as a backup.
Yeah.
I liked Tanner McKee coming out of Stanford. I was very surprised he lasted towards the 6th round in last year's draft. So I think him as a backup's really nice. Now, it's a completely different skill set than Hurts. We're talking big quarterback who can't move around very much, but he's a pocket passer. And if he ever needs to come in, we'll get to this offensive line. He'll have a pocket. He
Yep.
will indeed have a pocket to throw from.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then we move to these receivers that really help Hurts out. Ultimate Batman and Robin right here. A.J.
Yes.
Brown and Devonta Smith, right? You have a dynamic wide receiver one, who I feel like it's so interesting with him because his game, at least what his game is recognized as, has changed so much from like the public perception, right? Mm-hmm. He used to be a quick route runner, right? Gets open over the middle and makes plays after the catch. That's what he was in Tennessee. Then he got bounced over to the Eagles in exchange for Treylon Burks. That's still hilarious. And A.J. Brown is now this insane vertical threat that wins with physicality at the catch point, not just after the catch.
Well, he showed flashes of that in Tennessee. That just
Really I'm not saying that he was bad at it, but it was like his game changed completely, right? And it's not like he's bad at one thing now, right? He still could be that after-catch guy. And that's why I'm really excited. His versatility as a player with such a versatile offensive coordinator, I think can make some really interesting stuff happen. We're seeing a unique wave, even in the division. Look at CeeDee Lamb, of like star wide receivers playing in the slot.
Yep.
I know that's what you want Devonta Smith doing because you don't want him pressed, and I understand that. But A.J. Brown as like this slot receiver, at least on occasion, should be pretty fun.
Nice.
Should be very fun, right?
And let's get to Devonta Smith now. Yeah, you don't want to be outside getting pressed, but man, he plays so much bigger than he is. I mean, this guy, he might be just as good as A.J. Brown is at contested catches, if I'm being completely honest with you. And that's not even the best part of his game. He's such a fantastic route runner. Devonta Smith, I mean, that's how he was so good in college, man. He is one of the very best route runners in football. Mm-hmm. And he is not afraid to take contact. He does everything you want a receiver to do. Yeah. And he's the second receiver on this team.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Exactly. Heck of a separator. I love the route running. I think that's his true best trait. But that along with... So I think it's a unique dynamic because A.J. Brown is more of the throw it up no matter what. I'm going to come down with it because I'm like a physical presence. Devonta Smith is more of a throw it anywhere in my general area and I'm going to pull it in not because of some physical presence, but because my catch radius is that big, and he kind of just wants it more.
And his hands are so good.
Yes.
He just doesn't drop anything.
Yeah. It's a really unique way of saying that both of these guys are really good vertical threats, just in different ways, right?
Yes.
And they can also provide in other ways. A.J. Brown can be more of that gadget guy because of his after-catch ability, while Devonta Smith can be more of that move the chains on a crucial third down type of guy. Both of them can do both, but... it's a really interesting dynamic duo we have here of these two receivers.
And then you get to the rest of the room, and it's not as deep. Paris Campbell, I think, is a fine wide receiver 3, especially when he's healthy. I think he can play. I like him a good amount. But then after that, you got John Ross, Mr. 422 himself. I doubt he does a whole lot, honestly. They drafted Johnny Wilson, who I didn't like very much. And so far in the preseason, they've tried throwing go balls to him. They haven't came down yet, but they're trying their best.
One day.
If you don't know, Johnny Wilson's 6'6", like 230 or whatever. He's a big dude, but he's just not. He's a big dude who gets thrown around by corners.
He's A.J. Brown he's A.J. Brown if he had the weaknesses of Devonta Smith. How's that?
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's not a great receiver room in terms of depth.
Britton Covey's fine. I did want to mention him.
Yeah, he's more of a special teamer. Yeah. But what he does as kind of like gadget guy? Yeah.
Yes, gadget guy.
And again, you see a lot of guys now, which this wasn't really the thing with Philly in the past. You look at this receiver core, guys like John Ross. Covey, of course, has been there, but still. They brought in, like, gadget guys. And it makes me think.
Going to be put in motion.
Yup. They're going to try and threaten teams with that outside run game beyond just Saquon Barkley. Right? And I'm excited to see that, absolutely. But next, I guess we'll do the tight ends, or do you want to do the running back then the tight end?
We do the tight ends, and this
Okay.
is like one of the this is one of the deeper tight end rooms they have in the NFL.
Yes.
Dallas Goedert, maybe the traditional tight end. We've been using that term a lot. He's just a really solid guy. He can block well, really good receiver, really nice. He's that first read on a lot of the RPOs they ran last year, and they do this one where it's RPO and they have the tight end just go to the flat and they just throw it to Dallas Goedert and he gets some yards after catch.
And then they also have the tight end pop, right? The most classic one in the book, right? Just fake the handoff to the running back, or I guess read the linebacker if the linebacker's overplaying the inside zone play because that's the only run play you run. Then you pop it over to the tight end, and there you go, 5-yard completion, right? It's another one of those guys, right? Is this the last one? Yes, it is. This is the last tight endy traditional guy, at least that's starting.
Yes.
That we're going to be talking about. There's a lot of these guys in the league that kind of just inline tight end, good blocker, nice possession guy, doesn't really separate but can settle versus zone, right? And he's a really good one. He's a really good
one of the best. Yeah,
he makes plays after the catch. He's a good blocker. He settles versus zone very well. Everything you want a traditional tight end to do, he does. Very simple, right? But then you move on.
Grant Calcaterra's there. He's kind of more the blocking tight end.
Yes.
Like he's just, you have a tight end 2, ideal tight end 2. And I do like that they added verticality to this tight end room in both CJ Uzomah and Alberto.
Yeah. Alberto, I love how the entire NFL community generally just agreed to call him Alberto. Ever since he became a starter, everyone was like, okay, let's give up on that name. Alberto is a damn good possession guy, right? He's big and he lays out, makes catches. CJ Uzomah, I think, is nice because he is someone that can stretch you vertically, but also able to go underneath, get catches on that tight end drag, a very reliable play against zone, right? It's a good room. It's a good room. Not spectacular, but it's deep. You have 4 guys that I trust going out there, for sure.
And then we move to the running backs, and we get to their big offseason get. Saquon Barkley, who, when healthy, possibly the best running back in the league. And this is a guy who's played behind maybe the worst offensive line these last 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say it has been the worst offensive line.
There's a reason that they're on their 5th O-line coach in 6 years right now.
Yes.
Right? It is... It's
and
not
despite
good.
That, he still had some damn good seasons
behind
that line. And now he gets to go behind what's been the best offensive line these last 5 years in the Eagles. And I am so excited to watch what he can do. I think we're looking at, maybe not because, for one, Jalen Hurts is a touchdown vulture, and this offense is going to want to throw the ball vertically. If they run the ball a lot with Barkley and he stays healthy, we're looking at potential, Christian McCaffrey MVP candidate kind of season.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at with Saquon.
Because
he could have a better
that
season than that.
He is that talented. He can catch passes out of the backfield, be very effective in that way. He can cut really well. He has really good vision. He breaks tackles like a monster. He's such a well-rounded back, right? Again, the big concern, though, is injury, right?
Yes.
Well, the really good thing here is, listen, Saquon's, of course, their lead back. I'm not doubting that. And I do think they're definitely going to want to play with their new toy. But I definitely think that they have the depth to kind of keep him off the field as much as they want to, right? Because Gainwell, I don't know how you feel about Kenneth Gainwell.
Gainwell was the best running back in that room last year.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page then. Gainwell I like as a rotational RB1. I do.
Yeah.
I think he's a good back. Another well-rounded guy, has good vision, can read the holes when you're running inside zone a lot. It's very important to be able to read the gaps in front of you, be patient. And then I'm also a fan of Will Shipley as a rotational guy.
I'm a big Will Shipley guy. He was in my top 5 running backs in this draft. He's not only as a rotational guy, as this third down back, he's a really good pass catcher. I expect him to be used in that way. He's fine. I think he's actually a really good fit for this scheme and as a zone. I think he's got good vision too. Got nice speed. He's just a good back to have. I think this is a nice running back room even outside of Saquon.
Yeah.
If they were entering this season with Kenneth Gainwell and Will Shipley, I'd still be I still think this run game is going to be
Yeah.
really good because the offensive line's also really good.
Yeah.
So.
Well, listen, if the run game was good with DeAndre Swift, it's going to be good no matter who's there. But I like just those two more than I like DeAndre Swift. And now you add a Saquon on top of that, guaranteeing you only get Kenneth Gainwell and Will Shipley out there when they're playing their best football because they're in a rotational role. And maybe you're getting more of Saquon's best football, right? Yeah. You're not really ever going to see him at just 60%. He's always going to be out there at 80, 90% because he's going to be able to rest his legs, maybe even for full drives, right? Yes. And then Jalen Hurts is going to, run the ball a little bit. You were described as vulturing his touchdowns. And, the fantasy football people, they look at it like that. Sense, yeah, in a fantasy perspective, yeah, it's vulturing. But in real life, Saquon's going to love it when they're running zone read and then he doesn't get the ball because he's like, I'm not getting cracked.
I'm referencing the tush push. When Saquon's going to run for 80 yards, fall at the one, and then Jalen Hurts is going to tush push his way in.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
That's what I meant by that, in the sense of this is going to happen, guys.
Yeah, it is what it is.
It will limit the Saquon Barkley MVP season, unfortunately.
Who do you think is their lead tush pusher? Do we think it's Saquon?
I don't know if they're going to want him in on tush pushes.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was kind of how... You think they put... here's the thing. They don't put,
it's not going to be
linemen behind him.
I would be surprised if they put Calcaterra behind him.
Yeah, that's possible. But I feel like they used to do a running back, right?
Well, I don't know if they have,
Yeah.
How big is Tyrion Davis-Price?
Yeah. That's the question.
He's 6'2", He could do it.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Okay. But when they're really serious, that's when they're going to pull Calcaterra out and have him be the tush pusher. There we go. The position created by the Eagles.
They're going to have Tanner McKee do it.
Yeah, there you go. The 49ers have the wide back. The Eagles have the tush pusher. There we go. But now we get to this offensive line. The lead reason that this tush push, the brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it, is so effective, right? And I think it's the truest testament to just how good this O-line is. Not only are they great at blocking zone and all that stuff, great at blocking inside zone. But again, I know it's kind of done to death. People talk about it all the time, and it's not really worth being talked about that much. But in 10 years, when teams aren't trying to do the brotherly shove anymore, and this is gone, and Lane Johnson's retired, Len Dickerson is older, Jordan Mailata's probably retired, right? When all these guys are retired, right, we are going to be looking back on the fact that every single, pretty much, I want to say 97% of the time that it was a 4th and 1 and the Philadelphia Eagles ran a QB sneak, it worked. And they ran the QB sneak so much, so effectively, that it became a new wave. Keep in mind, this was something that has been being done since Bart Starr in the Ice Bowl, okay? And we are calling it some new concept because Philly is that good at running it. All right? That is the true testament to how good this offensive line is. All right?
And you can't talk about how good this offensive line is without talking about Jeff Stoutland and what he's been able to do since he's been there. The best offensive line coach maybe ever, man. He just is pumping great linemen out. Just pumping them out.
Constantly.
And constantly.
We are talking about, I don't want to get into players, but we are talking about in the year 2024, Mekhi Becton possibly being a starter. Okay? That tells us all we need to know about, and that's not because Tyler Steen is some awful player. That's because...
Steen's also good.
Yeah, so. That's because Stoutland might have fixed Mekhi Becton, who hasn't been very good, right? So, man, Stoutland is astounding, and he's the reason that all these guys, even the backups, are astounding.
Right. Like Matt Hennessy could play center for this team, you'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Now, I do want to say this. I'll start with the bad just because we have been giving them their credit. Juergens didn't look too good last year at guard. Now he's at center. That's his natural position. Maybe things change.
That is what they drafted him to be.
Yeah.
That Jason Kelsey handpicked Juergens.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll be fine at center. Well, Now that loss of Jason Kelsey is going to affect this.
Yes.
Absolutely is. You're losing who last year, he's old, he's lost a step or two. He's still one of the best centers in football. Yeah. That's just how it was. Mm-hmm. Juergens has some big shoes to fill. This is his original position. They're going to run a lot of zone. This is what he's good at. I think he's going to be fine.
Yep.
But we have to mention that he wasn't great last year at guard.
Mm-hmm. He was not. He was not. Even as a zone blocker, all they ran was inside zone, right? And he didn't do a good job last year. But, again, we'll see, right? The culture's changed a little bit. It's, year three. Yeah, right? 3. So, we'll see what happens here. Let's start with the positive, though, because literally everything else here
else is positive. Yes. Literally everything else is positive.
Lane Johnson at right tackle.
We are on, year 11 of him being elite? You know what I mean?
And they just paid him because they know, hey, he hasn't slowed down yet.
Nothing's changed. He's going to be good until he decides to retire. That's just what you're going to get.
He has the Joe Thomas honor of just, hey, man, play till you're 45 if you want. I mean, no reason to think you'll drop off at any point. Physically, he still pushes around the best edge rushers in football, right? He's still able to get to the second level.
He's able to get out there on those screens.
And then as a pass protector, he's still ridiculous. He's still ridiculous. It mirrors people like it's nothing, and he's so big. I mean, Lane Johnson's a great, great player. Then Tyler Steen, we loosely mentioned. I mean, this was someone who was like a developmental guy coming out of...
Alabama.
Alabama, thank you. I thought it was Alabama. Coming out of Alabama, 3rd-round pick. He was a little bit of a developmental guy, but they developed him.
Guess what? Right? He went to the place where you get developed.
Yeah, right.
And, he looked good I thought he looked good last year when he was in. So, and if he's not good this year, you have Mekhi Becton, who they might have fixed. And Mekhi Becton, I don't know how I feel about him playing guard. He's a big guard, but I trust Jeff Stoutland, whatever he does. So if you want to put him at guard, Jeff, put him at guard.
Here's the thing about Mekhi Becton. He had some bad reps. Some, awful, what the hell are we watching reps in his career?
It's so funny because, his rookie year, he was really good. Mekhi Becton's rookie year, he was, we thought, the Jets got somebody. And then he's with the Jets, and they're not very good at developing. He also dealing with injuries.
You could have just said, and then he's with the Jets, and ended it there. I mean, I think that tells the whole story, right? He was on the Jets. I mean, what happens to good players on the Jets, we all know that story, right? But in all seriousness, he was great his rookie year, and even in later years, he showed flashes of, ridiculous talent, tossing players effortlessly with one hand, insane reps. But then he also showed, struggling to get out of his stance properly and, falling on his knee trying to make a reach block. And, that was way too often. It was too often either single-handedly be the reason the play doesn't work or single-handedly be the reason that a defensive player is on his ass at the end of the play. Right? And I think most people would agree. They rather just have consistent, make your block. You don't have to break the world, right? You get a big play, knock someone on their ass every now and then, okay, that's cool. But if it comes at the risk of you potentially blowing the play up, I don't want it, right? Mekhi Becton isn't like that. But maybe he is now, right? We don't know. We have no idea. He's interesting as a potential starter for them. We talked about Cam Juergens, then Landon Dickerson. Great player. Another great player. Strong zone blocker, good leg drive. He has a very good feel for zone blocking, going up to that next level. Very athletic, consistent player with a good feel, and the leg drive, I think, is constantly impressive. And then Jordan Mailata, who...
Jordan Mailata's a big dude, man.
Fun.
He's a big dude. How big is he, 6'8", 370 pounds? Yeah. That's a monster out there.
And he's a former rugby player, so he has the athleticism. Yes. Yeah.
He's so athletic, man. Mm-hmm. He is one of the best left tackles in football. And it's kind of crazy that he was just a former rugby player that the Eagles picked up off the street who wanted to play running back when he came into the NFL. Mm-hmm. And Jeff Stoutland said, cool, you're franchise left tackle now. And that's where we're at.
Well, maybe he just doesn't know it's not running back. Maybe this is what he thinks running back is.
Told this is running back.
This is what Barry Sanders was doing. Just don't look it up, please.
He's also a hell of a singer. As
yes. I gotta say this. Probably, maybe not the best offensive line in the league. Definitely the best in our hearts. If you listen to that Christmas album, that was even Howie Roseman was on it. Did a little bit of singing. The GM. I mean, come on. It's always fun with this group. I hope they do that even without Kelsey. Maybe Kelsey still gets involved, right?
Kelsey should still come back, dude, and do it every year.
Come out of retirement, and then he announces he's coming out of retirement, and then he drops the singing album, the Christmas album. And no, he announces he's coming out of retirement, but only as a singer.
Yes.
There we go. That's what I want to see. That is the Jason Kelsey I miss, personally.
Yes.
But yeah, overall, an offense that is spectacular. Spectacular from a talent perspective, and now they have the scheme, the offensive coordinator, to really put it together. Now, this is probably the toughest offensive superlative section of the entire series.
No doubt. Zero doubt.
Who do you pick for Offensive Player of the Year?
I cannot not pick Saquon. I just can't. I know there's a risk of him getting injured, but Saquon behind a not just good offensive line, top 3 offensive line in the league. I can't not pick Saquon Barkley, so I'm going to Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that you could say.
There's many guys.
You could say A.J. Brown.
4 people along the offensive line if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. You could say A.J. Brown. You could say Devonta Smith. You could say Lane Johnson. You could say Jalen Hurts. You could say Saquon. And normally I try and avoid quarterbacks if they're just a distributor. I try to go with like the skills guys, and I definitely could go with A.J. Brown, and no one would bat an eye. But truly, I look at the pieces here, and I look at, like, besides the offensive coordinator, what's going to allow it all to mesh, right? I look at Jalen Hurts. What he's going to add to the run game by being a threat on the QB keep, right, is going to mean a lot for Saquon. What he's going to do with his deep ball placement is going to elevate A.J. Brown's game, right?
Yep.
I just think he's such a crucial part of this offense. That is a very unique offense. At least it was in past years. I'm going Hurts. I really do gotta go with Hurts.
No one's batting an eye when you say Hurts, too.
Then Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think me and you are heading the same place. Yeah,
I'm going
Will Shipley.
Man. It's not going to be Johnny Wilson until what I've seen this preseason. I very much don't want to see Johnny Wilson on the field for this team.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree.
Who knows? Maybe Landon Dickerson goes down, and 5th-round rookie Trevor Keegan comes in and went to the Jeff Stoutland School of Offensive Linemen and is one of the best guards.
I mean, a name I would almost entertain a little bit is Aeneas Smith.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A little bit, but I think Shipley, I think they are going to rotate their backs. Even though they paid Saquon big money, I think they want all of them to have fresh legs, and he has a very clear role. Do you have your X Factor or your 12th man here?
My X Factor actually is on here. My X Factor is Cam Jurgens.
You son of a bitch. I have the same one.
Because, you do have to replace and fill in the shoes of Jason Kelsey. Yeah. One of the best centers ever and one of the best centers in the league. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to see. And if he can, hey, we're back to being potentially the best in the league. So
I mean, the good thing is they're not schematically dependent on having a Jason Kelsey because Kellen Moore is new. But still, if Cam Jurgens can do... He doesn't have to be Jason Kelsey. Not at all. No. Like, that is impossible. I'm not expecting that.
Yes.
But if he could go out there and consistently get to the second level, get in the way of linebackers,
just be a
good combo blocker, this O-line might be the best. I mean, I really like another
between
team.
This one and the next one.
And the next one that we're about to do. Hey, don't spoil anything. Come on.
Hey.
What, do I have to censor that? Is that what I'm doing now? But yeah, no. It definitely is in the discussion for best O-line in the league, for sure. And if Cam Jurgens can be there, it's like a 1A, 1B type of situation, really. But then we move over to the defense now. And now you get to go on
Did
your
you have your 12th man or anything?
I had my X Factor. It was also Cam Jurgens.
I know. Did you have your 12th man?
No, my 12th man is on defense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay.
But now you get
I
to
can
go on
my
your Fangio
rant.
rant. Yeah.
Big Fangio is a good defensive coordinator. Absolutely is. He made this defense pretty dang good last year when we were fully healthy. There is just, I think, at this point, a ceiling to what Fangio offers as a coordinator because he is that stubborn with how he wants to run his defense and where he wants his players to play. I've rarely ever let Jalen Ramsey cover the best guy. Rarely ever. I mean, take it like Javon Holland, the minute he was hired, took a video of him going outside and literally kicking rocks. Like this defense was not a fan of Fangio and how stubborn he was. He wasn't willing to adapt, and that got us into trouble a lot last year, especially early on. And well, the middle portion of the season didn't feel as bad, but later in the season as well. And from what I've heard, like I saw an interview with Jeremiah Trotter, their rookie linebacker, and they were asking him about Fangio and some like kind of references stubbornness, and he didn't give some like glowing review. It was kind of like, yeah, he's kind of stubborn.
Well, sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I'm not going to disagree he's stubborn because there are a lot of listen, all of these coordinators, they have egos. That's the reality, right? You're an NFL coach, you have an ego. You got there because you're confident in your ability. I don't think that's a bad thing. I look at this roster. I don't think they're going to need to change much off of the Fangio cover 6.
Right. I would
match
agree.
quarters,
I do have maybe a little concern because they drafted a player we both really liked, and I don't know if he's going to be able to really use his ceiling or want to move because he didn't move around guys a lot.
Okay. I didn't know who you were talking about because I liked a lot of the players they drafted.
But you know exactly.
Now I do.
Yeah. They didn't move. He doesn't move guys around a lot. He has their spots. That's what he does. That's what he did with the Dolphins, and it kind of got us into trouble because he wasn't able to adapt and use their full skill sets. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. Maybe it's a little better with the Eagles. I still think he's a good coordinator regardless because we had a fine defense last year. Mm-hmm. But that's a little bit of my Fangio rant.
I don't think he's going to maximize some of these players. For example, the guy you just mentioned. However, everyone, at least each of the starters and a lot of the depth pieces, have a very clear role in the Fangio stuff. Now, Jeremiah Trotter acting that way doesn't surprise me because he probably doesn't like cover 6 very much. He probably likes let me blitz every play, right? Like, and listen, he could play the wood. Like, I hope he doesn't see this because if he does, he'll find me and kill me.
It wasn't sitting here like criticizing Fangio.
Yeah.
It was just like they asked him a question. He was like, yeah.
But no, I look at the pieces here, right? Let's get into what the Fangio scheme is for those that don't understand. They ran a lot of zone last year, right? A lot.
Too high zone.
Too high zone. But now, under Fangio, it still will be zone. But now it's going to be zone with match man principles, right? What concepts does Vic Fangio like? He likes cover 6, a.k.a. quarter, half. That's when you have one player in one deep quarter, one player in the other deep quarter, and then one player guarding the half. Normally, you put the player that's guarding the half on, like if you're playing against a 3-by-1 set.
It's quarters to the strong side. And,
exactly. Thank you. Or to the passing strength, normally. Yeah. And then match quarters. This is something that will probably run more against the 2-by-2 sets, right? This is when you read the release of the second receiver to the sideline, right? And based off of his release, either the safety back deep will pick him up, or the linebacker or whoever's in the flats will pick him up. That's how that works. And then match cover 3, that is just a very similar thing to match quarters. It's just instead of reading the release and matching based off of quarters principles, you're matching off of cover 3 principles. Wow, insane, right? Vic Fangio was really good at coaching this stuff up. And there's a reason Vic Fangio kind of revolutionized defense in the late 2010s and like a little bit the early 2020s because everyone saw him running this at an NFL level and running it pretty much every down and was like, oh my God, cover 6, that's the new wave. And then all of a sudden everyone has a Fangio disciple, right?
He is what Mike McDonald is becoming.
Yeah. But here's the thing, right? We don't know what McDonald's going to do. I'll give you this,
Yes.
right? I don't want to be parading on... I did not expect this to become parading on Fangio, but I guess he kind of has become... Well, again, both of us think he's good. But it used to be, oh, you're running cover 6 and match quarters a lot? Oh, my Lord, you're reinventing defense. You're so complex. Now, a lot of guys
Everybody
are doing
runs it.
and now it's not very special. It's like Rex Ryan when he was running stunts a lot. Like, that was kind of the new wave, and then everyone did it. And now Rex Ryan is just normal, and then he's bad, right? Vic Fangio is kind of just the normal, right? He runs those coverages out of a 3-4, and he rushes 4 pretty much all the time, doesn't do much stunts with it, really just sticks to a straight 4-man rush. And I don't expect that to change here because, like you said, he's stubborn. But again, it doesn't need to change because we look at the personnel, they seem very, very well built to run this type of scheme. Let's start this up with... Do you want to start with the secondary or up front?
Let's start up front.
Okay. So, on the interior defensive line, we got, at least let's say the starters right now, Milton Williams, who I think has been a very, very underrated player.
Milton Williams is my guy, dude. I thought he was super underrated last year as a rotational piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he has, like, some finesse to him, right? He's really impressive in that way. Jordan Davis, he hasn't put it together at the NFL level yet. He has not. But he's like a giga-charged. He has the ability to be a giga-charged Patrick Sypher nose tackle in the sense of he's so big and can eat gaps. And then you're running outside zone, he's just going to bolt over there. That's what he was at Georgia.
Yep.
We haven't really seen that in the NFL, though. Not yet. I don't know if I'm expecting to see that now. I guess I'm going to stick to my guns.
He's kind of struggled during the preseason. I'll tell you that. He's struggled a little bit during the preseason, which not great, but if he can be good, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But then Jalen Carter is undoubtedly one of the best defensive linemen in football, right?
Yes.
Even after just his rookie year. He was insane as a rotational guy, and they're going to still be a rotational team because they love rotating their defensive linemen. Love it. That's what they do, right? Now, when they run this 3-4, I guess I should have really clarified this. They kind of switch between which of their two edges is rushing off the edge. Sometimes it will be Josh Sweat, who is one of their edge rushers. Other times it will be Bryce Huff, who is the other edge rusher. They're going to rotate, right? There were reps where Hassan Reddick played coverage, right? And there were reps where Bryce Huff was playing coverage. They mix it up a lot. And is that because either of those two are great in coverage? No. But, I mean, they don't really care, in all fairness. Like, they don't. Did I say Bryce Huff? Bryce Huff was not on the team until this year. He's from the Jets, right?
He's from the Jets. They signed him. Who, by the way, Bryce Huff, if you're not aware, one of the best pass rushers in the league last year. He was purely a third down rotational piece for this Jets defense.
And will he be that this year? Like, you look at this edge depth. Do you think...
Yes, I think he is a third down rotational piece.
I agree. Because...
Which is perfect for him. Yeah. It's a perfect fit.
Because
this is where he should have gone.
They have Brandon Graham, who's a vet. Has been last year he actually looked pretty bad, but everyone on this defense looked bad because they were awfully coached.
But they also have Nolan Smith.
Yes.
I am maybe the biggest Nolan Smith guy on the planet. Nolan Smith is what who's the receiver on the Texans that you like?
Oh, Xavier Hutchinson?
Nolan Smith is my Xavier Hutchinson.
Well, Nolan Smith was
I know he
went
way
rounder.
later. I know Nolan Smith was but take it like it. Nolan Smith was like top 5 player in that class for me. I loved Nolan Smith, man. He had maybe the best bend I've ever seen from a college edge prospect. Like, insane motor. He hasn't put it together yet. And when he did play last year, he wasn't that great. Mm-hmm. I still wholeheartedly believe in Nolan Smith, and I think he can be a fantastic player. So I'm hoping for a big year from him.
Mm-hmm. The engine doesn't stop with Nolan Smith.
No.
Ever. Here's what impresses me about Nolan Smith, and I think will really differentiate him from the rest of this group. He can drop back. He can. At least he did at Georgia. And he does it fine. He's good at it.
Yes.
I can't say that about Brandon Graham. And I cannot say that about Bryce Huff or Josh Sweat. I can't. I'm really excited. I am really excited to see what this edge rush, 4-guy unit looks like, because it should be a fun unit.
I will say this. I'm a little surprised Zach Bond isn't an outside linebacker, because that's what he did with New Orleans a lot, where they put him along the edge and they drop him in the coverage when they did. Instead, I'll say this. We're hyped about this outside linebacker room. I think this is a pretty unserious interior linebacker room.
I think they threw a lot of darts at the board, and one or two is bound to hit. Maybe that's how I look at it.
There's also a chance that none of these hit, man. There's also a chance. There is a chance. Maybe not. Like, I don't think it's gonna be as bad as last year.
Oh no, it won't be.
But like, there's also a chance this also isn't a very good linebacker room again. And I think that's wholeheartedly.
I'm not expecting anyone to emerge as a stud, but they're gonna find two guys that are like serviceable, maybe a little bit below serviceable, right?
I think that's fine to say.
Like, I honestly, I get Devin White gets a lot of hate. I understand that.
He's a good blitzer. He's a really good blitzer.
He's a good blitzer. It sucks that Vic Fangio doesn't blitz linebackers, really, but he is a good blitzer. I still think you start him, there's a reason for it, right? Because he has games where he looks great. He does. I remember, I think week 1 where he looked really good. I wouldn't give him the label of bench him yet. I think if
agree.
A Jeremiah Trotter,
I think he is the best. I think he is the best linebacker in this room.
Yeah,
and
I think if a Jeremiah
Trotter looks
looks
opinion of Devin White, so that covers you the rest of this room for me.
Yeah. Okay. But I think between Jeremiah Trotter, Nakobe Dean, who we've been waiting for a while now, and Zach Bwan, along with like Oren Burks, Ben Van Sumeren, like, I think one of those guys is bound to really emerge as like a fine, serviceable guy.
I'm a little worried about Bond. I didn't love him in there. Like, he was a good role player in New Orleans. They run a 4-2-4-3 over there in New Orleans, and when they did run a 4-3, Bond came in and he was fine. He was serviceable. Yeah. He's kind of more of that outside, like, will linebacker type of person. Is what he's going to play here. He's fine. He's better. I'll tell you this. I can wholeheartedly say he's probably going to be better than what they had last year. So that's all right. Jeremiah Trotter's interesting because I think he's looked good this preseason. I didn't think he looked good in college. I was not a Trotter guy. College, at least anything when it came to outside runs where he had to run towards the sideline or drop in the coverage. He's slow. He's not a fast. Yeah. He's a
true thumper, strong side Mike linebacker. Like, that's what he is.
Yes. Which worries me because this team is going to run a lot of that too high. They're going to be in nickel. That's where you kind of have to be that athletic, fast linebacker, and that's just not what Trotter is. Well, but he's looked good this preseason.
It's not like they're running Tampa too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they're fine with him going out there and kind of just being a threat to the inside run game. But in an ideal world, Jordan Davis should be doing a good job forcing runs outside. In an ideal world, you trust Jalen Carter. And then it's like, you shouldn't need a linebacker that's really just there to contribute as an inside run stuffer. But in an ideal world, like, the Jets would have been Super Bowl champions this year. Like, the ideal world isn't always the case. I think that's what Jeremiah Trotter is. I think he's more of a contingency plan for if Jordan Davis doesn't contribute.
He also will say his father did play for the Eagles. Too.
Yeah.
Trotter is a legacy pick as well. I'm not saying it's like, they only picked him because of – no.
They played the same type of football.
They played the same type of football, exactly. And then Nakobe Dean. I didn't like him coming out of college, actually. I wasn't a big Nakobe Dean guy because it was so funny because in my draft bio for him, I would say, you're not always going to be playing in front of this Georgia front. And then you look at this team, and Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, and Nolan Smith are all from Georgia, so I guess I was wrong, right? But even so, he hasn't been very good in the NFL when he has played, and he's also dealt with some injuries.
Yeah.
We'll see if he puts it together. We are entering that whole, you draft athletic linebacker, enter year 3, develop, maybe good. We'll see.
I was hoping he would at least be a nice coverage guy for, third and long situations. I don't even know if he's going to do that. He's not, bad in coverage, I wouldn't say. I would say it's way more, what he does against the run that scares me.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I thought, worst-case scenario was kind of like a stud rotational guy. And that just hasn't been the case as of now. But now I move over to the secondary. And they're deep.
I do have one question.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick. Sorry. It just came to my mind. Is there a world where, like, Nolan Smith's not working on the edge for him because, like, he wasn't very good along the edge last year, where they're like, and their linebacker room is not doing great, where they're just like, Nolan, we got to try you somewhere, man. Where they just maybe try him at, like, inside linebacker. He's athletic enough to do it.
And he can cover. Yeah, I don't see why not. Sure. I think you're wasting a lot of what makes him a good
completely
player.
Agree. I completely agree. But I will say this. He didn't look great on the edge last year.
Yeah, no, he didn't.
And if he continues to not look that great, maybe you try him elsewhere.
Hey, athletes are athletes.
To do it. Athletes are athletes, exactly.
Yeah. But now we look at the secondary. They're deep here. They have a lot of names. It's just a question of will they work out. They had a lot of names last year. They didn't work out. But now they have a different defensive coordinator. Will Vic Fangio do a better job coaching up this defense and making sure they know how to play coverage and actually tackle? That was a big thing last year. I don't think corners knew that it was like you're allowed to run after the catch last year.
There's that play, man, in the Buccaneers-Eagles
Devin Tompkins
game. Was it? I thought 19 was.
Oh, it might have not been.
No, that's
it was the third. It was the third. Palmer.
It's who?
No, wasn't it the third wide receiver?
It is the third wide receiver. I'm trying to remember his name. He's the he was Rashad Perriman. It was Rashad Perriman.
Oh,
that's who it was. 19.
Who was I thinking of? Who's Palmer? Now I'm gonna
Trey Palmer.
Trey Palmer is who I was thinking of. There we go.
But this was Rashad Perriman, and he just caught like a dig.
Yeah.
And just nobody could tackle him, man. It was ridiculous.
He broke like 4 tackles.
And they were some of the worst tackle attempts you'll see in your life. So,
playoff football, by the way.
Playoff football, by the way.
Was it at their home stadium? Yeah. No, the Bucs won their division.
No, the Bucs won the division.
Yeah. But still, it was a bad game. Bad game in every level. Especially, that might have been the single worst playoff performance I've ever seen. Right? I know the scoreboard might have been worse in like a Steelers versus Chiefs game. There were a couple.
But like
of
the
bad
Steelers
ones.
Had moments of like they were not completely out of the game, like third quarter, right?
Yeah.
We were talking the Eagles were out of the game in the second quarter. Yeah. Like everybody knew it was done.
Mm-hmm. And it was because the Eagles looked incompetent.
Yes.
It was bad. It was really bad, and they kept trying the same stuff. But anyway, right? Philly, their corner room, I guess we'll start with.
Yeah, and you start with, I guess, best guy in the secondary, and that's Darius Slay. Darius Slay is still an ideal number one corner.
Last year it didn't look that way, but that was because of how much zone they ran.
Yes.
Right? I think now with it being zone with match principles, I think it will be a lot better. I don't know how you feel about Quinton Mitchell. I have this being a 3-4 base defense with Quinton Mitchell as the starting other corner. And I think like halfway through the season, Quinton Mitchell becomes the real number one corner.
I have my concerns with Mitchell. I still very much have a first-round grade on him, and I think he went to a place that can develop him and is known for developing players. I think he's gonna be a good player. However, he is not in contention for the starting outside corner right now. Right now, it is listed. Right now, it's been said by people in the coaching staff that it's between Keely Ringo and Isaiah Rodgers, and they have Mitchell as the starting nickel, which I don't agree with.
Yeah.
I don't see Mitchell as a nickel at all. See him as an outside guy. And I'm going to jump around a bit here. But if you're not if Cooper DeJean is healthy and you are not playing him at nickel, fire Vic Fangio immediately.
Unless he's your free safety. Unless he's your free or strong safety.
If he's playing safety, sure, that's fine too. I still think I think we both agreed. Cooper DeJean was my best defender in the entire draft.
I had Jared Verse as my best. He was my second best.
Okay, Cooper DeJean was the best defender in the draft to me. I said as soon as Cooper DeJean comes in the league, you're looking at a potentially elite nickel corner. Like he is so unbelievably talented as tackler, coverage guy, can do literally everything. Such a smart player in coverage, and I think he'd be the perfect nickel. And if you want to put him as safety, that's fine too. But you got to put him on. I just think you have to put him on the field.
Oh, he's got to be on the field. He's got to be. And that's the thing. I think if you use him as a nickel more than anything, I don't think this team is basing out of nickel. So that's where
So
it's like,
ideally, I'd love to see he's the starting safety, and then when they go to nickel, they move him down to nickel because you've got a decent safety room.
yeah.
But they'd also, we don't know if that's the case because they have Quinion Mitchell as the starting nickel guy right now.
Yeah, I don't get
see
it.
that.
Because, tell me, are you a big, like, I'm not against Isaiah Rodgers, I guess. Like, I think Rodgers...
I think he'll be better than Bradbury was last year.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big Isaiah Rodgers guy either.
And then Ringo I really liked as a developmental project.
Yeah, and if he's developed, sure.
Yeah.
And even this, why not play Ringo at nickel over Quinion Mitchell? Because Ringo would be a better nickel.
I just think Ringo doesn't have, like, the twitchy hips.
Yeah, maybe, but he's also just a better tackler than Mitchell is.
That's the thing. But so, okay, hold on. This goes back to our conversation about base defense, because this is important here, right? If you're running nickel only on 3rd and long or on clear passing situations, it doesn't really matter how good of a tackler. Although I guess screen passes kind of can fuck you. But if it's not a big screen team, then, that's probably what the ideology is. Maybe that's it, right? But the problem remains Cooper DeJean needs to start because he's
Cooper DeJean needs to build. Yeah. Cooper DeJean is like already the second best player in the secondary.
He's low key the second best linebacker on this team.
I hope you guys know Cooper DeJean played every position.
Yeah.
For the Iowa last year, man.
Edge rusher. They had him edge rusher.
Yeah. Safety, linebacker, nickel, outside corner. They had him run wildcat. This guy did everything.
And on special teams, he was everywhere. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is like a football player.
He's a freak.
He's a freak. And I have he is the best defender drafted me. If he's not starting, I'd be like, what are you doing?
Because not even his game is raw. It's not like, oh, he's just an athlete.
He's so refined.
He's so refined. It's just there's a little bit of questions of his twitchiness.
And that's the question of can he play outside corner? And I would say I think he can. I don't know if he'd be all that great at the NFL level. Yeah. But he's going to be damn good as a safety and or nickel, I promise you.
As a nickel, it sucks that they're not running. He's the only player that's hurt by them running match zone as opposed to spot drop zone. Because if they were running spot drop zone, I think then there's no question he's the starting nickel. But because they're running match zone, I think Quinion Mitchell is a better corner for them.
Right.
But
he should play safety.
There's no reason. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, we saw him last year. He was not that good. He was not.
No, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson's more of a nickel than he is a safety.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? But he's labeled as their starting strong safety right now.
It should be the
G.
Now, from what I understand, Cooper DeJean hasn't been healthy for most of the game, so I kind of get
That's
it.
probably why.
Right now, yeah. Right? But, as soon as he's healthy, he needs to get in there ASAP.
Absolutely. But we talked about Quinion Mitchell. We talked about Cooper DeJean. Isaiah Rodgers, again, he's fine. I think Ringo's the better guy, though, if we're talking about outside corner.
He showed some promise last year, man, Ringo. And then in the preseason, he's been pretty dang good.
Mm-hmm. And then the safeties, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, we talked about him a little bit. James Bradbury had a position switch. He is now a safety.
He has not looked good, even at safety, man. He just might be cooked. It might be time to let it go.
It's one of those things. When corners get switched to safety, that's either, oh my God, this player is a Hall of Famer, like a Rod Woodson or a Deion Sanders, so we want him on the defense no matter what, even though he's not quite an athlete anymore, or they're cooked.
Yeah.
This is the latter. They're
cooked. I think he's just cooked.
Yeah, and then Reed Blankenship's an instinctive player.
But this is a pretty good safety room, especially if you include Cooper DeJean as one. It's actually really good. Blankenship's a good player. Sidney Brown's on the PUP list right now, but he's a developmental safety guy for me last year. And if he is an athlete, he can potentially be good for this.
Caden Stearns is on.
They have Caden Stearns. Yeah. This is the second time we've talked about Caden Stearns now, which I'm surprised because he got picked up by the Panthers and he must have gotten let go again. Mm-hmm. So now he's on the Eagles, and I thought Caden Stearns was good last year. So
yeah, we'll see. Really. It's strange. Also, I guess we didn't talk about Jalix Hunt as a rotational edge for them.
Oh, I guess
they did draft him.
Apparently, he was handpicked by Fangio. I didn't watch much of Jalix Hunt.
He's an athlete. To be honest with you. It's another guy who will develop. The Eagles develop defensive players. That's what they do.
The Eagles have this thing where they draft defensive linemen and offensive linemen, and they develop them, and then you see them in 2-3 years, and for some reason they're really good.
Yep, it's like you're like, who is this guy? Oh yeah, I remember he got drafted 3 years ago in the 4th round.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's strange. But now the offensive superlatives were hard. The defensive superlatives I don't think are as hard, but they can be a little bit difficult. Who do you have as your defensive player of the year?
Defensive player of the year, I am going to go with Jalen Carter.
Yeah,
I think
same thing here.
Easy.
He was so effective last year as a pass rusher, while also being a good run defender. He has so many moves in his bag, really good with his hands, and just a dominant physical force. He will be a rotational player, but he'll be so effective when he is on the field, it won't matter. Defensive Rookie of the Year, this is tough.
This is tough, but I'm contractually obliged to say Cooper DeJean. So
yeah, but what if he doesn't get the reps?
I see, but there should be zero reason he's not getting the reps. I just don't think there's a reason he shouldn't be getting them. He's too good to keep up.
Here's the thing, too. Quinton Mitchell isn't getting the reps either. That's what throws a wrench in this.
Yes.
If Mitchell was the day one outside corner,
I'd pick Mitchell, too.
I'd pick Mitchell.
But, even then, there should be no reason Cooper DeJean is not playing, even if that's safety, corner, linebacker. Their linebacker room might be that bad this year where they say, Coop, go, like you did in college.
Well, I think the thing that stops him at nickel is the fact this is a match zone team, not just a zone team.
Exactly.
And he struggles in terms of change of direction a little bit. He's a freak athlete, but that's the one area of his game at corner that'll kill you. In some schemes, this is not one where it would kill you, because it isn't a man scheme, it's a match zone scheme, right?
Yeah.
But it is one where you could be picked apart a little bit as a result of that.
Absolutely.
Now,
so
I have my 12th man here. I don't know if you do.
Yes, my 12th man's here as well. For me, it's going to be Bryce Huff.
Well, so who do you think the starting two are then?
Well, we already talked. It's probably going to be, I think it's either going to be Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham or Josh Sweat and Nolan Smith, and then Bryce Huff's going to be their third down guy again. I think that's exactly what's going to happen with them.
Yeah, I could get behind. You saying that makes me want to go Bryce Huff. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I'm going Bryce Huff then. All right, let's do it.
Who are you thinking?
I was kind of thinking Quinton Mitchell because I don't think he's going to be a starter right now. Yeah. But I think you're onto something right there. I was also thinking Jeremiah Trotter. You know,
he could be there. We didn't. I forgot. We didn't really touch on Eli Ricks, but Eli Ricks was the guy they got last year.
He was so bad last year, though. He was
bad last year, but he's someone we have to talk about.
I liked him at Alabama as a press man corner, but he sucked last year. He was terrible. But yeah, except of course against the Dolphins, where he was really good for some reason in that one game against my team. But whatever. Yeah. Absolutely. So, special teams. I'm going to hit on this quick because this one seems to be on pace to be the longest in a while. Jake Elliott was 30 for 32 in 2023. Braden Mann had 49.8 yards per punt, just barely off of that treacherous 50 yards per punt. In terms of returners, they have one of the best in the league in Britton Covey. Along with that, they have Isaiah Rodgers. John Ross is also on this team, let's not forget. And Paris Campbell.
Cooper DeJean can do it.
Yeah, Cooper DeJean is another guy who can do it. They have guys. Covey is like their guy, though. He's a stud.
Yeah, he's a stud.
In terms of other guys, they have Nolan Smith, Josh Jobe, Ben Van Sumeren, Caden Stearns, I think, can go out there. If DeJean isn't a starter, Cooper DeJean is going to be a special teams maniac. And Alberto could absolutely be a contributor. And then Oren Burks is really a special teams ace for them. He goes out there both on punt team, kick team, and he's really effective as a tackler. Very good. Pretty much on all units of special teams. But now we move on to our predictions. Right. What is your ceiling for this team?
The absolute ceiling for this team is 15-2.
I put 14-3.
Yeah, they can be unstoppable.
The schedule isn't too bad.
No.
So that helps them a lot here. What do you have as the floor?
I think the floor for this team is 9-8.
I also put 9-8. What is your prediction?
My prediction is 12-5.
So despite your ceiling being higher, I am one win off of my ceiling. I have 13-4 right here.
Ooh, very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So
do you know if that's the 1 seed or not for you?
I mean, I have it all in playoff predictor. I could look But I'm not going to lie, I've been adjusting the hidden secret right here. If you've been typing in every game trying to get the records as we do this, you're going to notice some problems because I've slightly changed a couple of games throughout. I'm sorry, I didn't calculate everything 3 months ago. But yeah, I guess that would be my, looking right now,
Yes.
that would be my 1 seed. Because of a tiebreaker as a result of conference games. Look at that. Yeah, so now we dive into the schedule, though. They started off with a Green Bay game that is not in our country. Friday game, Friday night game.
No.
What are you thinking here?
I'm thinking first game of the season, Philly's going to be healthy. Saquon's going to be healthy. This is a new defense, or that this is a team that's trying to learn to do defense. I think this is an Eagles win at home. Well, not at home, but you know what I mean. They're the home team.
The battle on the line of scrimmage is going to be strange, man. It's going to be really fun. Really fun. But I do agree, Philly has the pieces to kind of make up for that, so I'm going with the Eagles, yeah. Then Monday Night Football, right after that, they play against Atlanta. This game is in Philly. Philadelphia at home, primetime television, against a team that I still have no idea what's going on with them because of the conversation surrounding them.
Feels like an Eagles win.
Yeah, it feels like an Eagles win.
Eagles at Saints.
Yeah.
I see another pretty easy.
Now, Dennis Allen does know how to shut down this run game. He's good at that. And they have the secondary to kind of go toe-to-toe with those corners. I think this could be a low-scoring affair. I'm expecting a low-scoring affair.
This offense, Derek Carr might get sacked 8 times. Like, that's just what happened with this offensive line. This is a bad offensive line.
This will be a sloppy football game. I'm taking Philly. Definitely an upset watch.
Yeah.
Tampa.
Then the little rematch here.
Philly.
I think the Eagles are going to be like they might have practiced for Tampa 2 weeks ago.
I think that's how Kellen Moore auditioned for the job. What would you have done on this play? And then he drew up a concept and was just like, that was easy. What was your guy doing? Right? I think they are just drawing up ways to beat that as we speak right now. I think this is going to be a decimation.
I think they're going to kill the Bucs.
Yeah.
I think they're going to murder the Bucs.
Mm-hmm. Then there's an early bye week for them. Then they followed it up with a game against Cleveland.
I like the Eagles off of a bye here. They have the offensive line to help against this Cleveland pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the corners can man up, but the corners can man up with them, but these are two very good receivers. It's going to be hard to do that all game.
Yeah, well, I think I kind of trust Cleveland to do that. However, I do think Philly will still get stuff going in the run game. I do. And I think that will open up stuff in the passing game for them. And then you look at it on the other side of the ball, I don't think Cleveland's going to run overly effectively. Like, I think they'll be fine running the ball, but eventually they're going to have to depend on Deshaun.
Do you have to depend on Deshaun Watson? If yes,
yeah.
No.
Yeah. If yes, that is a Cleveland loss. And now we get to our other chart, the Giants. This game is in New York. Is Evan Neal starting?
At this point, probably.
I think either way, the Eagles kill him. Like I
agree.
It's
Daniel Jones. If you didn't watch the preseason game, Daniel Jones looked awful.
Yeah, he looked bad. He looked bad, but he threw that one deep pass. Didn't you see that?
He threw one deep pass.
Yes, he did. He actually threw a lot of deep passes in that game, but that's besides the point. They're gonna have Cooper DeJean out there to pick it off, so it doesn't matter.
That's right. Pick 6.
There we go. Now the Bengals. This is a team I think might beat them. This right here.
I have them with the Bengals win here too.
Yeah. I think, while the Eagles could get to Burrow doesn't care. No. They get the ball out quick. We saw them struggle to tackle last year. I think they're going to be better at tackling this year. These are tough receivers to tackle, though.
Yes.
They are. I'm giving it to Philly. I agree.
Now, there's a world...
Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cincinnati. Then we got Jags-Eagles. I actually have a Jags upset here. It just feels like a primetime Jags upset. That's what the vibe I'm getting off this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have anything else to say. Like, Philly's a better team.
Yeah, but their quarterback is such an X factor in Jacksonville. Yeah. Such an X factor. Yeah, I mean, I could see it, right? Yeah, I could definitely see it.
I think they
I
have
think I'm
the
going
front
Philly, though.
to deal with the run game and
Mhm.
to get to Jalen Hurts. So that's a thing. But the corners is where we're like, yeah. So
Yeah, but I also look
I
at
just
like Jacksonville's receivers. How much can they really set? Like, I don't love that group, but maybe BTJ has a good game, right?
yeah.
I could see it, right?
So then we
At
get
Dallas,
at Dallas. I think that
Philly
the Eagles
wins.
are going to win both. I think
I
the Eagles are
think
going to win.
everything they used against the Bucks also stands here because this is another blitz heavy team. Unless Zimmer got fired already, uh,
Yeah.
I think they're gonna really lock it. Or no, they might not change much to kind of defend CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee Lamb could have a really good day, but I don't think he could do quite enough because he is gonna have to be a one man show. I also think they have the brute up front to kind of at least challenge that offensive line a little bit. Yeah, I'm going with Philly, and then Washington. Philly's winning.
We don't have to say much
Yeah,
after that.
not much.
You
Then the
get
Rams on prime time.
that is a prime time game
Mhm.
with that Washington game, so they do get a kind of a mini bye here going to the
But
Rams.
three primetime games in 4 weeks.
I feel like this is a Rams win.
Yeah, exactly. I think that catches up with them, and I think the Rams kind of just have the guys to go ahead, beat that secondary, have the guys to hold up. I think run the ball. If Jordan Davis isn't good, they're gonna have to put Trotter in, and even he might get murked by a Kevin Dotson throughout this
Yeah.
game. I think the Rams match up well there, and then at Baltimore.
This is a tough one.
Yeah,
I I think I lean Philly, but this is like potentially one of the best games of the season. Really, it's going to be close.
I think the game being in Baltimore and Kellen Moore not really showing much against a McDonald, now a Zach Orr scheme. I think I'm gonna go with Baltimore. I think so.
Then you got Carolina at Philly. I feel fine saying Philly here.
You feel fine taking Philly here? Yeah, I mean,
Like Derek Brown's going to give him some problems in the run game,
uh-huh.
sure, but I don't love the
What
secondary.
else do they got? Yeah,
Yeah.
and by now J.C. Horn's out, right? Because he's
Yeah.
injured like after week 5. So yeah, then the Steelers.
This feels like a hey, Steelers
Bullshit.
coming off
Steelers win.
bullshit.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And then we move over to Washington. At Washington again. How can Washington win this? Right? Maybe some Jaden Daniels magic? I mean, it's late in the season.
Magic can be a thing.
But I think they get to Daniels so easily.
Yeah, especially along the interior there.
Mhm.
Maybe Dan Quinn has this Commanders defense cooking, right? Like
I
there's
think
a
they
little bit of
can.
that.
I think Washington might do a good job stopping the inside run, but then when they start doing the outside run with the new gadget stuff, maybe Saquon, they're going to be running pistol. They could hand it off outside zone. Maybe. I mean, they could stop the inside run, but I think now they have the versatility. I think they match up better against like last year's Philly, but now it's this year's Philly, so I don't care. And then Dallas again. I like how the Eagles match up against Dallas. I do.
Me too. And then we get Giants at Eagles. I don't know. Last game of the season. Philly might
Daniel
just be
Jones
resting
send
their
off
starters.
before he's
Send
cut.
off. Eagles might be resting their starters.
Yeah.
The Giants win. Just because.
Yeah. Before he goes off to the XFL, he wants to give a good send off, right?
Yes, exactly.
Throw a pick to Avante Maddox.
This might be the Drew Lock. You know who's in at this point? Our boy, the Italian himself.
DeVito?
DeVito's in at this point, and he's winning this game.
Yeah, sure. And then they pitchfork for him to be the starter.
Yes.
But that is all for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. If you want more of my content, check out down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe, right? If you want to check out the next part, the even numbers are on his channel. The odd numbers are on mine. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all again next time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I feel so sick right now.